Discovering Unitarian Universalism several years ago has been transformative for me, in part because in doing so, I rediscovered my call to the ministry. We were Southern Baptists when I was a kid, and I came in the house one day at the ripe age of 5 and told my mother I was going to be a minister. Shortly after that, I started recording sermons on the kids' cassette tape recorder my parents had given me. It's probably an act of grace that those cassettes have long since disappeared. But then shortly after that, I discovered that I couldn't really believe the fundamentalist creeds of the only church I had ever known, so I didn't really have a context within which to place a religious ministry. Unitarian Universalist churches were in short supply amongst the oil refineries and auto repair shops where I grew up, and I guess Buddhism or more liberal forms of Christianity never really occurred to me. We weren't exactly a diverse bunch. Our idea of religious tolerance was being nice to the Catholics and Methodists. As a young adult, I moved to Houston and went to work in the nonprofit arena. I got a degree in psychology and did some theater. I've since realized that all of these were ways of channeling ministry through other means. Still, I met my partner of 20 years, Wayne, through the nonprofit work, so I'm grateful for those times. Then, almost 8 years ago, Wayne and I and our 2 extremely spoiled Basenji dogs moved to Austin and started attending First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin. And it felt like we had found a religious home, and then the church dismissed the minister. We almost left, almost resigned our membership, but then we made another decision that would turn out to be transformative. We decided to stay and work for a better church. I got involved in the board and in the mission and vision work. And the more I served, the more connected I felt. And pretty soon, a still, quiet voice began calling me back to the ministry. One of the things that's changed for me during this first year of seminary is how I see my future ministry. I guess when I first entered the program, I was coming out of nonprofit management and administration for many years, and I had already seen how oppression is at work in our world and how much there is a need for systemic change. And I have a preference for sort of larger picture, abstract work anyway. And I guess if I'm honest, I was a little afraid of how I would do with one-on-one types of pastoral care. So I had pictured a sort of social justice ministry, a community ministry, maybe in an interfaith organization working for systemic change and being only loosely associated with a congregation. But during this first year, I was also serving as president of the board of trustees at my home church as Meg Barnhouse, our new settled minister, started her first year with us, and working with her, watching her put into place the worship and ministries and program and outreach that took the vision and mission work that we had done and made it come alive, helped us to start to actually make the differences in people's lives that we had dreamed about. I realized that I'm a governance and church operations and ministries and policy and polity geek. I actually love the parish ministry stuff. And doing my community services, I discovered that I have a real passion for the pastoral. At least twice a month, I visit with an elderly African American woman who is confined to Austin State Hospital because she has stage 4 renal disease and dementia, and she doesn't have the resources for private care. She overcame a life of unbelievable challenges for many, many years in New Orleans and ended up in Austin because of Hurricane Katrina. I go to see her, and when I go, I know that the brokenness isn't going to get fixed. And so often when I'm with her, all that can be done has already been done, and all that we need to say to each other, we've already said, and the only comfort I can provide is just to sit with her. Just to be together in the silence. And sometimes she looks at me with this fire in her eyes and a little bit of a grin, and the quiet strength and loving character that are her essence shines through the dementia. And so now I can't imagine a ministry that doesn't involve the pastoral, because I am so fortunate to get to hold at least some small part of her story. So now when I think about my future ministry, I want it to be in close connection with the congregation. That doesn't mean I've lost the fire for the prophetic. It just means it will have to be with and through a congregation.